hopes, dreams, and aspirations. These are what fuel humans. And without any hope or dream for the future, we spiral into depression. But what do you do if a dream that you had, let's say it's a big life dream, fails? What would you do? What would you do? I propose that your answer to that question is the single biggest factor in your happiness in life. I have been researching how women go through infertility and the result in their life long term. Although it's an extreme example because our desire to reproduce is heavily emotional and biological. The answers for how these women get through infertility and cope long term are very instructive. I have several examples. And first I need to explain what a cycle is. In vitro fertilization, a cycle is a course of about 4 weeks where you are injected between 1 and 4 times a day with various drugs and hormones. You also take medications by mouth, and you are given blood draws multiple times, and you are either put in a state of extreme receptiveness in your uterus or extreme fecundity in your ovaries to produce many eggs, as many as you can, in those 28 days. When I married, there was an explicit agreement with my husband that we would create a family, and we knew by the time we were married this was going to be difficult. So shortly after we married, we stepped into an in vitro fertilization cycle. So this is hope, and we failed. And incidentally, the cost of that cycle is roughly $12,000. I spent the day crying and yelling at God and had not quite come to plan B yet when a friend from work stepped forward that very same day and said, "I'll donate eggs." So after a lot of discussion and a contract drawn up, we agreed that she and I would step into cycle together. She would be the producer and I would be the receiver. And we stepped into that cycle with a lot of hope, and it failed. Immediately, my husband and I turned to Plan B. Plan B was an international adoption. But within a week, my friend pulled me into a conference room and said, "We're going to do this again and it's going to work." I said, "No, I completely appreciate everything you did. You did everything you said you would do. Bless your heart. But that is a lot of pain and it's a lot to endure, and I'm not going through that again. So we're going to adopt. I'm perfectly fine with adoption. We're both perfectly fine with adoption." She said, "No, you don't understand. We are going through this again and it's going to work." Who am I to argue with complete faith? I said, "Okay, we'll do it." She and I stepped into cycle with a lot of hope, and it succeeded. 8.5 months later, I had a beautiful baby boy. And 19 months after that, we had his brother, who was conceived from a frozen embryo. 20 months after that, we attempted our third cycle with what the remaining eggs were, and that failed. So we went through hope, failure, hope, failure, hope, success, hope, failure. I'm very happy with my children, although I am going through the teenage years of angst right now. Friends at work who are executives knew they were going to have to step into an IVF cycle. Their first cycle was their own genetic material, and it succeeded. And they had always wanted to have more than one. They both came from large families. They stepped with hope into the next cycle and failed. Into the next cycle and failed. They went through 13 cycles of failure, and then came to a point of saying, okay, plan B is we're going to hire a donor. So, like I did with my friend, they stepped into a cycle with donor eggs, and they succeeded. And they had twins. And today they have a family of 3, which they're very happy with, and they too are going through the teen years of angst. A friend who always assumed she would have 2 children. That was part of her big life plan, married and discovered she had blocked tubes, fallopian tubes. And they offered to do a surgery which may or may not be successful, and her husband said, "No, we're not going to use you as a guinea pig. We're happy the way we are, and we don't need to have children." But she had always planned to be a mother, and she felt like a failure reproductively, and also a failure as a human for not being a mother. Ultimately, he left her for a woman who would have children with him, and she, to this day, is depressed. For the last 13 years, has been depressed because of the failure. Two people got together in a marriage who already have children from a previous marriage, and they wanted a child together. And they had to step into an IVF cycle, and it failed, and they said, we're good. We got our family. This was not intended to be. They still have a very strong marriage today, and they never had a child together. A friend who was in a relationship discovered she was having problems conceiving, and they went to counseling. They were having some issues. The counselor said, whatever you do, don't get into cycle, because you're having huge red flags in your relationship. The relationship exploded. She ended up single. She did not want to be a single mother, and she considers her window for reproduction to be closed. And she is perfectly good with this. Not only is she content and has come to acceptance of this, but she raised her hand and said, Lisa, if you ever need anyone to talk about how I went from failure to acceptance to happiness, I'm happy to talk to any woman or any group of women about it. So what's the secret? Life isn't an absolute. Is Ben's new business venture worth going through all the effort, whether it succeeds or fails? Remember Lori's story about her horse's surgery? If her horse's surgery had failed, how would she have recovered? So many of us in this room have children. If the worst thing were to happen to one of our children, and perhaps you even have only one child, and you never have hope of having another, if the worst thing were to happen, how do you cope? In one hand, we must always hold on to the vision and the goal and the dream. We have to feed it. We have to nurture it. And we have to walk through life holding that in front of us and walking toward the end. But in the other hand, we have to embrace the possibility of failure. Because as we move through life, it's not our successes that give us resilience. In fact, if we had nothing but success, we would have no resilience. Our character, our wisdom, our resilience is built through falling down and picking ourselves back up again. And so I propose that your ability to move through failure and to come out the other side with your lessons, yet that you've stumbled and picked yourself up again, that is your single biggest factor in your happiness in life.